What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Bridge Between podcast. This is a very special episode. Monique Berry is joining us from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. And if you don't know where that is, close to Puerto Rico, on the other side of the world, and where I am in Hawaii. I am going to introduce Mo in a second, but I just want to say thank you to everybody who continues to support us. The Bridge Between has continued to evolve in more ways than we could ever imagine, and our goal is to continue to anchor in new earth consciousness healing and the elevation of mind, body, and spirit on where we want to see the world not only go but experience it, embody for all of us. If you're listening on Spotify or any other audio platforms, we are on YouTube if you want to watch this video, but go ahead and check us out on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at the Bridge Between 888, and also on Buy Me a Coffee. Is it buymeacoffee.com? Yeah,
buymeacoffee.com/bridgebetween.
Yes.
You want to support us, buy us a coffee, a tea, whatever it is that you're feeling. We're happy to be here today.
And of course, I have my co-host here, who you know, Reina.
What's good, everybody?
Continues to hold it down for me and is one of my preferred favorite people in the world. So thank you continuing to take this journey with me on this podcast. I would love to
love you too.
Thank you. It's mutual. Monique Berry, I would love to introduce you as someone who's not only a jack of all trades, but literally is an angel on earth. Monique Berry stepped into my life right before the pandemic, or right during the time of the pandemic, when the world was going absolutely fucking nuts. And I was stepping into my power as a healer. Not only that, but applying boundaries and how I show up in the spiritual community. And Mo was a huge guidance for me when I didn't really know anybody on Island. And not only holding space, but coming from a really God place with unconditional and just being able to see my light and what I want to do in the world. And then it evolved from there to doing astrology work with her. And she is one of my favorite people when it comes to astrology, not only because she knows her shit, but her story about her father talking to her about astrology really early on and how they bond over astrology. And she not only is that medicine of astrology, but she's a healer, she's intuitive, she's a psychic, she's a massage therapist. So she's all about the integration of this information. And I don't know if whoever's listening here, but living on islands surrounded by so much water is constantly moving energy all the time. So we're definitely going to dig into her personal life, her transformation, her work, especially as an astrologer, as an energy healer, and as a mom to a crystal child, and just what that really means in a time of new earth and as it evolves. So yeah, Mo, how are you feeling? What's going on? Tell us.
I feel really good. I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored. I'm a longtime fan of the podcast. So
Yay.
I feel like a celebrity right now.
You should.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah. And as you were going through the list of things, a big part of me was is it true? Did I do all of that? And yeah,
it's true.
Yeah, I did.
It's been a journey, and the list sounds extensive, but yeah.
You're a real Gemini. You got a lot of things to do.
Yeah. The Jackie of all trades.
Yeah.
Yes. I love it though. I love it.
One of my favorite services or offerings that Mo does is the year ahead astrology reading. And I just did one, and so did Reina this week. And it is, I can't express for those who listening to really book a session with Mo, especially around just the year ahead. Try to plan that. Even if you don't understand astrology, Mo is very intuitive and knows how to really break it down for you. She's also an amazing storyteller when she's doing astrology. And I'll just be like, damn, you said that's so good that I can digest that. I can really understand that. She also has a beautiful twang and island accent, so I just like her talk like all the fucking time. But before I forget, what is your handle on social media?
I have no idea. I am so not like, listen, I have no, I thought about that before and I was like, I don't even know how to check.
She doesn't really, she's not really on there, y'all, but you could find her. We'll link her.
Yeah, I mean, I have Facebook, I have Instagram, I have a YouTube channel. I just, yeah.
Tell us about your website. You got a website?
I know.
I have my website. Yes.
What
that
is
was www.itsabalance.org.
Hey.
Yeah.
Yes.
I want to jump into like what got you into astrology. What was that like spark for you, especially as like a kid, to like really understand that? Like, were you able to share that with other people your age? Like, who did you bond with, or like what was that integration of astrology medicine for you?
Yeah, so astrology has been around from day one. Of course, it was, just sun sign astrology, but my grandparents were really into it, on both sides, on my both parents' sides. And that's the thing about West Indian culture, is that the occult, astrology, healing, natural healing, all of these things are just like so integrated into the culture. And so yeah, it just has always kind of been there. It's always been present. And I have, I mean, even like my parents, they've always been into it. They always have like the Farmer's Almanac, and every year, like that was like something that you have to have. And knowing the fertile days of when to plant, because that's my family, were farmers and fishermen. So knowing the days to go farming or to go fishing and farming, that was important to them as far as livelihood and feeding their families. So that was always a big theme. And then I have cousins that are Geminis, and so that's something that like I would just like see certain things and like, why are they like that? And I'm a Gemini too, am I like that? And so it kind of went from there. And I guess on reflection, I've always been a self-help kind of person. Like I feel it. When you see something wrong, you can fix it. And whether it's like in myself or in the world around me. I'm a Libra rising, so I'm very interested in like my relationships and my connections and how I can do better and be better for myself, but then also for others. So that's just something that's like constantly there in me. It's like part of my essence. And so yeah, I wanted to know how to be like a better Gemini than some of what I was seeing. And then, wanting to know how to emphasize like the positive parts of being a Gemini sun anyway. And so yeah, it kind of went from there. I've always been interested in it. And then during my pregnancy, when my son was born, the clock was my focal point during delivery. I had my app ready to put in his birth time the moment that he was born. That was just and wanting to know how to help him, wanting to understand his soul, what he was here to do, and how I can emphasize those things and work with him through the more challenging parts of his chart, to know how to work through those things. And of course, it's not perfect. But yeah, it's been a huge help as a mom. And even I've been in a 12-year relationship, and even in my relationship and my friendships, I find that it's the perfect tool. Astrology has been the perfect tool to help me to understand where other people are coming from and to meet them where they're at. Because especially in my massage work, in my healing work, that's most important. You can't drag somebody along. You have to meet them where they're at, and sometimes just sit with them there. And I find that astrology really helps me to do that in a non-judgmental way, because I can see the activations in the chart. So then I can hold space and be more empathetic and more compassionate. And that feels like a huge honor to be able to do that. So yeah.
One last question for me before I toss it over to Reina, because I know she's itching. She's over here cracking her neck with like feeling this Gemini energy. We do talk about,
literally my shoulders are crazy.
I saw you, you're like, oh, this energy. We talk about new earth consciousness here, and the objective of this space is really to anchor in the shift. And so what is that shift for you? Obviously it is totally personal as well, but we know that collectively there's things shifting, and I know you use astrology in that way. First of all, y'all check out her website, because every week this girl, if not daily,
is daily,
writing like daily, writing about astrology. So she is not only offering sessions, but she is giving her personal time to write about this stuff. And like, again, if you're able, you go and read this stuff, you're going to want a session with Mo, and she is so worth it to invest yourself in this way. So definitely go check out her website and the blog, because I'm like addicted. If there's one website, like on my Chrome, it will always show me my top sites. Mo has been on my top site for like 2 years. Like literally go to. But yeah, shifting gears, going back to like what that means for you, and maybe giving us a little dose of even this Pluto return energy and the shift that's happening on Earth.
Yeah, so we have a huge shift coming in here. I mean, so Pluto has been in Capricorn since 2008, and we've seen, what that has done for our financial system and governments and people in power. Pluto kind of like breaks down, destroys, and then it rejuvenates at the end. So we're at the end of Pluto in Capricorn right now, and in March we're moving into Pluto in Aquarius. So that energy will move back and forth because Pluto is a slow moving planet. But when Pluto enters Aquarius, it really is, the dawning of like new generations, a new age. Some people say it's the beginning of the age of Aquarius, that dawning of the age of Aquarius. And of course, there's a lot of debates around that. But astrologically, I do feel it's where we settle in, or we lean into that future more. And of course, Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian and thinking outside of the box, and standing up against things that are not right or unjust, and coming together like one humanity. So of course, and again, like Pluto will bring up the underbelly of all of that as we move through these times. But within that, within the poison is the remedy most times. So So when these things come up, like however it affects us in the outer world or in our personal charts, we're being asked to go through this deep transformation. And of course, that's a word that's a little overused with Pluto, but it's not wrong. That is what Pluto does. It breaks down, it destroys, it decays. And I really like the idea of the compost with Pluto, with the Pluto archetype, because after that decay and rot, comes that rich, fertile soil that things grow from. And so whether that's, soul growth, just growth in our world, growth on the planet, growth in our relationships and our human connection, that's the cycle that we're in. That's what we're moving into. So yeah, definitely new earth energy.
It's beautiful.
I love that. I definitely think that Aquarius energy is definitely slowly on the rise. And I think we're seeing that too with the rise of AI technology. I felt like that was very Aquarius type energy, this Mars in retrograde Gemini, there's lots of energy coming through. And then like you said, Pluto is going to be transiting. So that's just going to be a very, very interesting move in the space and the places of everything that's going on. I would say, so your love of astrology, your family put you on, and you use it with your family, and I think that's amazing. I think everyone, if you are a parent, go look up your kid's birth chart. Go look up your birth chart and compare it to your kids, your partner. Looking into it and really compare and see how you can use that in your daily routine. There might be things I know Sosa is mindful of Mondays because that's a big day for her in her chart, you know what I mean? And I feel I'm very Jupiter ruled, so Thursdays are big days for me. There's always shit going down on Thursdays. So I think that's a really fun way to work with the energy. But I would say, what's something you are the most excited about? Maybe transits coming up for this next year, or just a transit that has happened recently that's maybe it hasn't fully come to a close, and what's something that you're really excited for the benefits? So I feel there's been a lot of I don't want to say controversial transits, but I feel
oh yeah, that's where it's been.
You know what I mean? It's been like very like, oh dang, there's some crazy stuff going on up there. You know what I mean? So what's maybe something exciting and good and like maybe something that we can spin in a happy way for the
Yeah.
people?
So I guess the first thing, Saturn wouldn't be the first thing that most people would think of when they're like fun and exciting, but Saturn
Mm-hmm.
is moving into Pisces in March as well. So I believe it's March
Ooh, I like
7th,
that.
Saturn moves into Pisces, and then March 23rd, Pluto moves into Aquarius. So the two outer planets are changing on the same month. So March is a huge month next year. And then it's like right before eclipse season gets started as well. So we have lots of new things coming in. And a part of what has been so divisive over the past few years is that Saturn has been in Aquarius. And Saturn is the ancient ruler of Aquarius. Uranus would be the modern ruler. And they've been in a square for the last 2 years. And I see it as they've kind of been like battling for ground about who's going to rule the Aquarian time that we're coming into. That's just like one way that I've kind of interpreted it. And their goal is to work together, but they had to, also like duke it out to be like, I'm going to lead and then you're a co-pilot or whatever. However they decided to work that out and however it worked out in our own lives. But Saturn has been strong in its home signs of Capricorn and then the ancient sign of Aquarius since the end of 2017. So Saturn moving into Pisces now, it's like that last 5 years of like structure and upward mobility. And then Saturn in Aquarius was literally keeping 6 feet apart. So it was because Saturn restricts and constricts. So and Aquarius is the humanitarian, so Saturn separating humans, like staying further apart. So now Saturn moving into Pisces kind of dissolves all of those like restrictions, those boundaries, and brings us into a more spiritual energy because the sign of Pisces is way more empathic, intuitive, and spiritual. And I think the spiritual disciplines will really come online, and the need for integrity in the spiritual work and spiritual realms, and maybe even more certifications needed for practitioners or qualifying exams or some kind of a qualifier for practitioners, so that like just anyone can't jump in and do work, and especially consulting work with people that they aren't fully qualified for. So and that's something that just in my own life, and that's what part of why I don't like come out guns blazing is because I want to earn it. I want time to initiate me into I guess more of a leadership position. and so for me that track does not need to move quickly for me to feel successful. So that's a lot of what I'm looking forward to coming up. And the other thing I'm really looking forward to is getting the nodes out of Taurus and Scorpio. Just on a personal level, that's my node. Those are my nodes. I'm South Node Scorpio, North Node Taurus. And so it's been really intense, and just lots of learning, lots of integrations, and stronger, much stronger than when I went into it, and stronger than I ever thought possible. So that's been hard and fun.
Oh my God, you've been going through it, you guys. Okay, look, let
Yeah.
me tell you. So she has, I'm sorry for putting
Monique
this out
is
there.
the
Your
truth,
son,
y'all. Monique is
like,
the fucking truth. So
like her sun is in Gemini. Like you have your Mars in Gemini too?
Yeah.
Like there's so much Gemini energy like that I can, and then plus her nodes were on the current nodes like Scorpio too. Like that's just so much energy. So if you're watching this on YouTube and you're like astonished at my faces because I'm thinking about everything that she's probably going through because of all these transits. But thank you so much for that insight because those are very exciting transits. I'm super excited for March. So mark your calendars, you guys. Like you said, your Saturn is going into Pisces. I'm super excited for that. I also feel like my unprofessional professional prediction is that I feel like the Instagram scammers are like going to come to a close. Like they're not going to keep going because I feel like you said, since Saturn is going into Pisces, I feel like that's going to be like an increase in spirituality, an increase in magic, especially when it comes to the rules. Because like I feel like Saturn is like rules, so I feel like they're going to have like more strict rules when it comes to this when this stuff. And I would hope so, because people have been complaining about it for years. Like, at some point, or when are we going to let these people stop scamming on people? But these are beautiful transits. I'm super excited. And the nodes are going to switch into
Libra,
what
no,
again?
yeah, Libra and Aries.
Oh shoot, that's me. That's me.
That is
That's
you.
my.
Those are
That's
your
my
nodes. Yeah.
Those are my nodes. Oh God.
Those are
God
your
bless me.
nodes. Yeah. That's my ascendant, descendant. So first house, seventh house. So yeah, I'll be feeling that as well. So
You know what? I got my arms crossed, because I've really been trying to tap into my North Node Libra energy. And I will say, I notice like every Libra season, I make a decision. Like, I make a
yeah,
choice at the end. Like, I'm doing something at the end of this. Like, so that's very, 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 very interesting.
I
If you
love
guys
that.
don't know, like what your nodes are, like definitely look it up. You can look it up on, like, Astro Cafe, or book a session with Monique.
Astro.com.
You know what I'm saying? And she can break it down for you. But look into your North nodes, your South nodes, because those are very, I would say, I don't want to say they're underrated parts of your chart, because I feel like we're like into astrology, so we understand the importance of it. But don't you feel like it's like a underrated? Like, you just mentioned how that's a really big change that we should be looking forward to. Like, can you talk to us a little bit about the North and South node? Just explain it to the people.
Yeah. So the modern interpretation of North Node, South Node is that the South Node is linked to our past lives. What we come into this life knowing, kind of like our tool bag that we walked in with in this life. And it's also where we can tend to get stuck. So, and ideally we want, we can't just go in one node or the other, because they move together. So you're never going to just be on one side of it, unless you have planets on one side and then the lesson there is more concentrated. But yeah, so the nodes, they're moving around the chart together, and so you want them to pour back and forth. You want the energy to flow back and forth. So we go where we're comfortable, so that we can regroup and grow strong again. And then we go into our North Node, and that's an area where we've come to learn about our North Node in this life. It's where we're uncomfortably leaning in, and we're uncomfortably moving forward in a certain direction. So yeah, we don't know it yet. We haven't walked that path yet. And another thing with in Vedic astrology with the nodes is the North Node is the dragon's head, and the South Node is the dragon's tail. So they were cut in half by Lord Shiva for drinking the immortal elixir of life that the gods are trying to keep away from these dragons. And so Shiva cut the nodes in half, but the dragon had already taken a sip of the elixir of immortality. So that's why they're forever coming around. And because they were angry, every couple of months, about every 6 months, we have eclipses where they eat the sun and the moon, or like, it's said to eat the sun and the moon, the eclipse energy, because it blocks out the solar and lunar light, which is our most steady, dependable life forces. So, we without the sun, we would die. So having the sun eclipsed, ancient astrologers looked at that as a bad omen, as a negative omen. And some astrologers would even say like the death of the king. And so, and of course that doesn't always happen. That's an old interpretation, but oftentimes during eclipses, you see people rise and fall because it rules the fates. So with having the eclipses shift into Aries Libra, the focus on our relationships, on ourselves, that's Aries, me, myself, and I. So the North Node moving into Aries, it's more of a time of I am, and what am I? And we've had Chiron in Aries, the wounded healer. So our souls have been going through this identity crisis almost, and learning who we are. And this is as a collective, learning more of who we are through this soul wounding process. And it's, Chiron is this energy of healer, heal thyself. So like learning the healing remedies and learning ways to soothe our soul's traumas. And so with the North Node coming in here, it can accelerate that process. And again, the thing with the dragon's head is that because it's cut in half, it does not have the ability to integrate. So it just wants more and more. It's like the hungry dragon's head can't get enough. It can be insatiable. So we have to be careful with our North Node sometimes, because that energy can be insatiable, and depending on the placement, it can be insatiable for power, insatiable for upward movement despite the costs, or it can be in like other areas of our chart. Maybe like it's in the area of like our home and family, so like we're destined to work in that area more. And then the south node, the dragon's tail, is about releasing. It's about like cutting off, letting go, releasing, often linked to the large intestine, which is about, you know, removal of poisons and waste from the physical body, from our lives. So a lot of like detoxing kind of energy found in the south node. So that'll be in Libra. So yeah, a lot of releasing of partnerships and relationships, and, you know, or recalibrating. It doesn't have to be releasing and cutting off, but it's just kind of like changing the dynamic in the relationship, saying like, hey, it's time to take a look at this and to reformulate things. So yeah.
I love what you said about the North Node, because my North Node is in Libra, and I feel like I feel like I'm never satisfied with like my makeup collection or like my skincare collection. Like I always want more. I'm like, there's more, there's more. So that's just a way that I thought about myself. Like I love like creativity and beauty, and like I always want more of it. But that is awesome, and I love that you're bringing that up, because I think that's a, like I said, a little bit underrated part of our chart. What do you think is an important maybe house or just part of our chart that's something that is like we don't really pay attention to, or that isn't like, you know, popular, quote unquote popular or whatever, that's something that people should look into that could really benefit them?
So I would have to say not any specific house, but the angles in the chart. So the ascendant, descendant, midheaven, and IC. So I guess what that would translate to for people that know nothing about astrology, the ascendant would be the 9 o'clock point on the chart. The descendant would be, or on the clock rather. The descendant would be 3 o'clock. The midheaven is 12 o'clock, and the descendant is 6 o'clock. So anytime that those angles are triggered by a planet, or, you know, any big event, if they're being squared or opposed, that signifies big life changes. So the ascendant is seen as the helm of the ship. It's what is leading the ship. It's what's in control of the ship, and the ship is your life and your chart, right? And then the descendant is behind your back. You know, the ascendant's also linked to like sunrise, descendant linked to sunset, or something you can't see, something that's behind you. And then midheaven is overhead, that 12 o'clock position. So that would be changes like in the career or reputation in the world. Also, that's the axis of parents. And fourth house, the IC, is like the home of the soul. It's where we go to like regroup and replenish. So yeah, anytime those points are being activated by any planets, it's just big change in our lives depending on the planet. So sometimes it's good stuff, and then other times it's, you know, maybe more challenging things we have to work through. I try not to do too much of like the good and bad, but, you know, because there's always good and bad and the good, and that yin and yang principle is so much of what my work is based in. So you know, it's like, okay, well, this planet is troublesome, so here's what we can do to turn it. And like I was saying earlier, it's a lot of times it's about using up the energy of the planet. So Neptune can be a really challenging planet to deal with when you have it on a significant point or planet in your chart. And so if you can use it on the positive side, doing more creative work, more prayer work, more meditation, dancing, listening to music, writing about fantasy, you know, like any of those things, it does help to use up the energy. It may not totally absolve you from the Neptune transit of like the mental fog or illusion, delusion, smoke and mirrors, because that would be like the more negative side. But if we just keep course correcting back to that positive expression of it, and not to say that we should avoid hard things either, because that's so important. It's in the dark night of the soul that we grow. But how do we use this energy as a tool instead of, you know, an obstacle? So
we talk a lot about shadow work, you and I, and also I know that that is because you have gone through many series of dark nights of the soul, and
yes.
not only of that, but the integration of your own light and your own gifts, and what you're supposed to be doing here, what you are doing here on Earth as a mission. So I would like to maybe reflect a little bit about like your journey, and what that's been like anything that was super like significant for you that really shifted, or a couple of things that you could share with us that was really just like life-changing.
So I guess as a kid, there was always this magical energy, magical presence around me. And my family always talked about that. I would say like, oh, I have a weird feeling. I have this feeling. And I kept having these feelings, and it got to the point where people were like, oh, like rolling their eyes, like, and of course, like other family members would ask questions about it and tune into it. As I got older, there was like a disproportionate amount of attention put on on me, I guess. Like, I feel like I want to hide even saying that, like, put on me, because, for whatever reason, people were like, oh, like, you could be a model or whatever. And it kind of became like this like packaged thing that's like what I had to do because everyone was reflecting it. And a lot during that time, a lot of those spiritual gifts, like that was being shut down by teachers. My family was starting to discourage me saying these things because teachers were making comments that maybe I needed psychological help. Because I remember that time, it was like third grade. I was having a lot of really intense dreams and psychic attacks, crazy psychic attacks. And so I was talking about it. That's my Gemini. Like, I have to, I learned through talking about it and through listening to even what I'm saying and other people's interpretations. So yeah, a lot of that got shut down. So then the next several years were very like superficial, and it was all about like, looking pretty to make everyone else happy. And, and of course with that came a lot, like way too much attention, negative attention. And, there was just a lot of like meanness, slander, attacks from female and male. If you smile at someone, you're a whore, like, and a lot of that kind of stuff. So that I shut down even more. And so I guess like the big the shadow work really got initiated after a very intense, brutal relationship in my early teens through my late teens and early 20s. And by all accounts, by any readers that my parents had hired or anything else, like I was supposed to be destroyed and devastated, and I was, but also incapable of recovery. And like, according to these, again, more projections. So yeah, like working through that, and I got myself to the point that, of course, like most islands or most cities, like, when you're in a bad way, things have a way of accelerating and moving faster, and self-destructive behaviors. And on my part, and then on other people's parts, kind of accelerated this like need to get off island. And I always wanted to be a healer. And as a young child, I had an after school job with my cousin, and I was giving her a little shoulder massage because she loved massages. And after the massage, she held my hand and she told me that I was the healer in the family. And I have 21 first cousins. So this was an older first cousin. So she, and someone I really looked up to and admired. And for her to say that, I feel like I had this pull of like past life memories and it was something that like I knew it was true when she said it. And I felt like she began this initiation into this work. It was hard to convince my family to let me do massage school. They did help me ultimately, like funding it, paying for it and everything to get me off island, away from this situation. And that's where everything changed. I was given the time to heal, which is just something that, I know most people don't get when their lives are crumbling. So I really was blessed in that way. And then the massage school that I went to, it was everything and more. And I can't stress enough how when we get on our path, when something is meant for us, that the path unfolds. We're invited, we're pulled along on this journey. And it was something as simple as, okay, I want to go to massage school. I wanted to go to Hawaii initially. And, because of my huge family here, everyone wanted me close by. I wound up in Florida. I Googled massage schools in Florida. The first place that came up was in a neighborhood that my dad recognized. So, but that his cousin lived there. So he called his cousin, and his cousin was like, oh yeah, like my wife rents an apartment complex, like I can, or does rentals in apartment complex. She can live here. We'll keep an eye on her. And the school is 20 minutes away. And that's how it went. I left on a Sagittarius eclipse. I left on the day of a Sagittarius eclipse, like on the plane. It was a new moon eclipse in Sagittarius as well. And yeah, I began my healing journey. And that, like I said, the massage school was just everything I could have possibly wanted. I got my Reiki attunement. I did a lot of just deep, hard shadow work on my own. I had, I had my cousins there, and they were wonderful and supportive, but I didn't spend a whole lot of time with them because I was like, I'm not getting distracted. I have work to do. And my massage school and all the people there just really held this space for me. And like every one of my needs were met.
If you're listening here, this is really what I would love for everybody to connect with when you're going to go see a healer, when you're going to go see a reader. Like, what integration or initiations have they gone through, and like how vulnerable and open have they gone? And so this story with Mo, and there's plenty more that there's layers, I should say, to Mo's story that doesn't really need to be shared, because I think she did a good job just covering the basis here. But it's also to never really give up, to really like tap into that innate knowing that you always had. You never gave up on it, regardless of who was coming at you. And let me tell you, y'all, like living on island, like your reputation is everything. You can't hide from people. You can't hide from the culture. You can't hide from the past. It's always going to be there. It's I didn't realize that until I lived in St. Thomas, and then I'm here in Hawaii. And like, it's funny, like when you see people like every single day, the same people, and like, it's a very different way of living. So I cannot even imagine what that would be like for me. And so you are still holding it down there, and it's very beautiful Atlantean type of energy, but it is
Yeah.
it's a force field. It is definitely a force field of an island.
My motto for all of it has been, with family, with every other relationship, is just showing up toe to toe with love. I'm not going to back down from the fight. I'm also not going to fight every fight. I'm going to bring love. And
Period.
Yeah.
That's the weapon of choice, is love. And yeah, sometimes that it gets messy, but it's something that has worked really well. And if you just keep showing up as your authentic self, all of the people, all the naysayers, whoever was working against you, they're going to go around and round and round, but they're going to come right back to you. And that's something that I have, like, again, like, the island life really does highlight that. And, and yeah, all of those same people that at the time seemed to be working against me have, they've all come around in their own way. And, and a lot of those relationships have been healed just by me being my authentic self. So that's been important.
I do want to go back to what you were saying earlier about charts. Both you and Reina had mentioned that about with children, and I recommend mothers who are watching this to get a reading with Mo about their children. I mean, there's so much to decode here. You would be like, why do I need that? Listen, like, just don't question it, not only for children, but certain events in our lives, whether you're starting a new business or traveling soon, or even past events of like when you got married, or any initiation that has happened. Mo is a plethora of information, and as you can tell, someone who's done the work and integrated it. So thank you, Mo, for being here. This is definitely not the first and last time we're going to have you on here. So
thank you. I look forward to it.
Yes, thank you for coming on and sharing so much beautiful astrology knowledge for all of our astrology lovers. Like, please go check her out. Go look at her blog. Her blog posts are amazing. I love them as well. Sosa put me on too, and book a session with her. You know what I mean? And just also just look into your own astrology. Like, ask yourself more questions about yourself, because I think astrology is beautiful because it really helps me learn to love myself a lot more, because I was able to understand myself on a deeper level, because I was like, how do they know about this? This is a planet in a book. Like, what they be knowing, but they be knowing. Okay. So they be knowing. So just just don't doubt it. Okay, you just got to listen, you just got to be open to it, and it can really help you, because this is ancient knowledge. Kings and queens of thousands of centuries have been doing this. Her grandparents put her on, you guys. My great great auntie put me onto astrology back in the day. So don't sleep on it. Don't sleep on it. Check her out. Follow us, and if you like this episode, please leave comments down below for Mo, so when she comes back next time, we have some questions for her. So, you know, if you guys have specifics, like maybe there's a certain aspect in your chart you want to talk about, ask us in the comment section, send us a DM on Instagram, email us at the bridgetronepodcast@gmail.com. You guys know what to do.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mo, for being here. Aloha, everyone.
Thank you. We love you guys. Bye.